Part 1. The Beginning of My Story. Hello, my dear listener. Today, I want to share something very personal. This is not just a story, it is my truth. A truth full of love, mistakes, and hope. I used to be just a simple guy from a small Canadian town. Nothing special, nothing big. Just cold winters, warm family dinners, and the sound of snow crunching under old boots. I never thought my life would become a storm of joy, pain, and change. But it did. Now, as I sit alone in a small room, with only my thoughts for company, I want to tell you how I lost everything, and how I fought to find it again. Part 2. Who I was. My name is Jack Thompson. I was born in a quiet place called Clearwater in the heart of Canada. It was the kind of town where everyone knows your name and neighbors wave at you, even if you've never talked. We lived in a small red house with a tiny garden. My father worked at a steel factory, his hands always covered in black dust. My mother worked in a local bakery. The smell of fresh bread and cinnamon was always in her hair. We were poor, but I never felt it. We had old furniture, cracked windows, and hand-me-down clothes. But we also had laughter at the dinner table, warm hugs before bed, and stories by the fireplace on snowy nights. That was enough for me. School, however, was never my place. I didn't enjoy reading long books or sitting still in classrooms full of noise. I was always looking out the window, dreaming of roads and places I'd never seen. At 17, I dropped out. My parents were sad, but they didn't shout. They just looked at me with tired eyes and hoped I would find my own way. I tried. Oh, I really tried. I worked in many places. Fast food, cleaning jobs, construction sites. Each job was like a pair of shoes that didn't fit. Too tight. Too loose, never right. One day I worked at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. The next, I helped carry boxes at a moving company. But every time, after a few weeks, I left. There was always something missing. I didn't know what, but I knew I was searching. And then I met her. Part 3. The girl who changed my life. Her name was Emily. She had bright red hair, freckles like tiny stars, and a voice that made everything sound like a gentle song. We met in the bookstore where she worked. I walked in to buy a cheap coffee and ended up buying a notebook I didn't need, just so I had a reason to speak to her. She smiled at me, and something inside me shifted. It was like suddenly the world had color. We talked, then we talked more. And soon, we never stopped. We went on simple dates, walks in the park, hot chocolate by the lake, talking for hours in her kitchen while her cat, Oscar, sat on my lap. I was 19 when I married her. We didn't have a big wedding, just a few friends, my parents, her sister, and some homemade cupcakes. But it was the happiest day of my life. I remember the way she looked in her white dress. Not expensive, just perfect. 1 year later, our son was born. We named him Evan. He had Emily's red hair and my stubborn eyes. He was small, warm, and made soft little sounds that filled our tiny apartment with life. But joy and struggle often walk together. Part 4. The road that took me away. Money became a problem. Diapers, baby food, rent. It all added up. Emily worked part-time at the bookstore, but it wasn't enough, so I made a hard choice. I became a long-distance truck driver. It was good money, and I loved the road. The wide highways, the big skies, the sound of the engine like a heartbeat. But it took me far from home. Sometimes I was gone for 2, even 3 weeks. I missed Evan's first word. I missed Emily's birthday. I missed the little things. Sunday pancakes, rainy evenings, bedtime stories. At night, in cold parking lots, I sat alone in the cab of my truck, holding a picture of Emily and Evan. I whispered, "I love you," into the dark, and then I slept. To fight the loneliness, I started buying lottery tickets, a small habit, one ticket at a time. I told myself it was harmless, a dream, a tiny hope to fix everything. Then it happened. One rainy Tuesday, I stopped at a gas station in Manitoba. I bought my usual coffee, a sandwich, and one lottery ticket. The next morning, I checked the numbers, and everything changed. Part 5. The Rise and Fall. I had won millions. Enough to stop working forever. Enough to change our lives completely. I called Emily. She didn't believe me. She laughed, then cried. We danced in the kitchen when I came home. Evan clapped his hands, thinking it was a game. We bought a big house outside the city. I got a new truck, shiny, red, powerful. Emily got her dream. A library room full of books and a piano by the window. Evan had his own room, full of toys and dinosaurs. At first, life was perfect. We traveled. We took pictures. We laughed. But then, something in me changed. I started spending more. Watches, clothes, new phones every month, parties with people I barely knew, trips without Emily. Then came the drinks, then drugs. Emily tried to talk to me. She cried in the hallway. She begged me to come home early, but I was always too busy, always tired. I stopped holding Evan, stopped listening to his stories about school. I became a stranger in my own house. And soon the money began to run out. Faster than I imagined, much faster. One day the bank called. The next week the car was gone. Then the house, then Emily. She took Evan and left. She had no choice. And I was alone. Part 6. Rock Bottom. I lived in a small motel for a few weeks. Then I moved into my truck. Then the truck broke down. One night, I slept behind a grocery store in Calgary. It was minus 10 degrees. I wore 2 jackets and still shook with cold. I had no money, no food, no one to call. I drank cheap beer to forget. But forgetting only lasts for a moment. Then one day, I saw a little boy holding his mother's hand. He looked like Evan. His laugh was the same. And something inside me broke. Not like glass, like a dam. I fell to my knees in the snow, and I cried. Not quiet tears, loud, messy, painful crying. And I whispered, "God, give me one more chance. Please, just one." Part 7. The Climb Back Up. I walked into a church the next morning, not for religion, but for help. They gave me warm soup, clean clothes, and a name, someone who could help. I entered a rehab program. It was hard, shaking, crying, remembering everything I tried to forget. But I stayed. After 6 months, I got a job washing trucks, the same trucks I used to drive. But I didn't complain. I worked with quiet hands and a tired heart. Then one evening, I saw Emily again. She was at the grocery store, holding Evan's hand. I walked slowly to them. I said, "Hi." She looked surprised, afraid, but not angry. "I'm not here to make excuses," I said. "I just wanted to say sorry." Her eyes filled with tears. Then she said something I didn't expect. "Would you like to come for dinner?" I nodded. The dinner was quiet, but warm. Evan told me about school. Emily didn't smile much, but she didn't tell me to leave. It took months to build trust, but I kept showing up, not with money, but with time, with honesty, with love. Part 8. What I learned. Now I work for a local company. Still a driver, but I come home every night. I cook spaghetti on Fridays. I read bedtime stories to Evan. I take Emily out for coffee. We are not rich, but we are whole. You see, money is not evil, but money without wisdom is dangerous. I thought money would save me, but it almost destroyed me. The truth is, what you do with money matters more than how much you have. Save, learn, invest in people, not things. If I had learned that before, I could have saved years of pain. Part 9. Final words. Call to action. Thank you for listening to my story. Maybe you saw a part of yourself in me, or maybe someone you know is walking a similar road. If this story moved you, please leave a like. Subscribe for more stories like this one, and share it with a friend who needs a little hope today. And remember, it's not what you have in your pocket that matters most. It's what you carry in your heart. See you in the next story.